Tomb of Annihilation has a lot of NPCs. Some are your friends, some are your enemies, and some are a bit more complicated. Today, I want to talk about two NPCs in this third category, Artus Cimber and Xandala. This video will be a bit of an exploration in expanding the lore provided in the core campaign. I'll discuss the general strokes of Artus and Xandala as written. Then I will explain my expanded take on these two characters. I've shared my version of these characters enough times that I want to record it as a cohesive exploration of the characters as written, and one path other DMs can take to flesh out the relationship between the two characters, especially Xandala. I hope you will gain some creative fuel for your campaigns. There are spoilers, so if you are a player of Tomb of Annihilation, this video may not be for you. There are also very minor spoilers for Storm King's Thunder. So, what purpose do Xandala and Artus serve? In a broad sense, these two characters serve as a device to fold some old lore about a magical artifact and a mysterious city into the current state of the world. Artus Cimber is a man from the Sword Coast who came to Chult long ago, found a ring, saved a city, and won over the princess. Xandala is a half-human, half-elven woman who wants that magic ring. The story of Artus and the Ring of Winter is the subject of a book aptly named The Ring of Winter by James Lowder, written in 1992. The book is a decent example of the game fiction genre, and it gives some insight into Mesro, Chult, Aramag, the Batiri Goblins, and some of the lay of the land that you may not otherwise get from the Tomb of Annihilation campaign book. I found the portrayal of the Bari of Ubtao, or the Bari of Mesro in general, and Raz NC in particular, to be far more interesting than the main story of Artus. Dragonbait does not feature. Raz NC gets about 3 pages. No other named characters in Tomb of Annihilation are present. The very short synopsis of the book is that Artus was a member of a group called the Harpers. This faction basically believes that people should know what is going on in the world, that power leads to corruption, and that everyone should have power over their own lives. Artus grew somewhat disillusioned with the Harpers, and other adventurers, and just humanity in general. He eventually latched on to the legends of the Ring of Winter. The ring is a magical artifact that is said to bring immortality and power, but never stays on one finger for long. If you think this sounds a bit like another legendary ring, there are some high-level similarities. Following some leads on the ring, Artus makes his way to Chult, in equal turns following or being followed by his nemesis, Cavern Ebonhand. Once in Chult, Artus eventually finds the ring in the hidden city of Mesro. There's a nice section where he speaks to Ubtao, or a representative or aspect of Ubtao, and eventually gains possession of the Ring of Winter. He wields the ring to save the city from a combined attack by Cavern and the Batiri Goblins. In doing these things, he gains immortality via the ring and wins the love and hand of Alessandra Rayburton, one of the 7 immortal Bara of Mesro. Fast forward about a century. We know from bits and pieces of lore across a variety of books that at one point Artus becomes the Chosen of Auril, a goddess the Ring of Winter is mildly associated with. He then stops being the Chosen. I have not found any further canonical details about this beyond a few blurbs in old source books, so I can't give you too many more details. For what it's worth, the most recent information about the Chosen of Auril I have been able to put together is as follows. Ihenora the Merciful was the Chosen until 1108 DR. Sometime after that, Irakleia becomes the Chosen until 1737 DR. Sometime after 1362 DR, the time of the events of the Ring of Winter, Artus becomes Chosen. I think this happens sometime after the Spell Plague as well, so this would probably be after 1384 DR. By 1485 DR, some 5 or 10 years before the timeline of Tomb of Annihilation, depending on how you reckon it, Artus is no longer the chosen and has been replaced by Hedron Arnsfirth. We also know that Mesro fell or collapsed or was shifted to another plane of existence during the spell plague. There is a lot of material surrounding Mesro, but this video is not about Mesro. The important thing is that Artus is not there when Mesro falls, but he is convinced that the missing occupants of Mesro are still alive, including his wife, who was in Mesro when whatever happened, happened. Most players will run into Artus some 100 years after his wife and his adopted city have disappeared. He has been wandering Toril for at least a century. Some of that is the chosen of Auril, and now he is trying to safeguard the Ring of Winter and find his wife. Per the campaign book, he is traveling with Dragonbait, his Sorial scent-talking friend. Artus is most likely encountered somewhere on the way to Oralunga, as that is where he is going to find information about his lost city and wife. Artus may or may not know a frost giant named Drufi has recently arrived in Chult to claim the Ring of Winter, and he is likely unaware of our other person of interest. Most importantly, he is grappling with 100 years of trying and failing to find his lost wife, while constantly keeping the ring out of the hands of those who would make it their own. Xandala is a bit of a cipher. The book gives us 3 paragraphs, which boil down to telling us a scant few facts. Xandala is a half-elf. She is a draconic bloodline sorcerer. She has a pseudo-dragon friend named Summerwise, who is worried about her. She wants the ring from Artus. She is claiming to be the daughter of Artus, and wants to find a party to help her reunite with her lost dad. So now we have a little bit of a quandary. Xandala is cute, she has a cool sidekick, and it seems like most DMs portray her pretty charismatically, which is fitting with the way the character is described. This is all fine. But I'm really tired of the cute psycho trope. So, I made something a bit more involved. This is where I start to depart from and embellish on established Forgotten Realms lore. What if, instead of pretending to be Artus's daughter, Xandala actually is his daughter? We know Artus has a son in canon, Sirac. Sirac was orphaned as a baby, left in the capital of Cormyr in the city of Suzail. Artus is from Suzail as well. Sirac ends up in Bryn Shander by the 1480s or 90s and is a fisherman. He is there when frost giants attack. There is a problem here, though. Sirac is human in canon. So if Artus fathered him at the last possible moment before Artus married Alessanda, during or before 1362, based on the Ring of Winter, Sirac would be over 120 years old by the time of Storm King's Thunder. But what if we change that lineage to half-elven? Then Artus could have sired children before the events of the Ring of Winter. And what if he had 2 children? And what if he never knew? Enter the elf woman, Melian Morwen. Artus and Melian were an on-again, off-again couple in Suzail. It was fun, and neither of them thought much of it until Artus left without word, and Morwen found herself with child. Twins eventually came, a boy looking strongly like his father, and a girl who was decidedly fey in complexion. A few years passed, and Morwen assumed Artus was dead or gone, but she eventually learned he was alive and had married. Melian knew Artus did not know of the children, and they had never made any commitments to each other, so she decided to let the past be and move on with her life. After some time, she decided to return to her family home in the west, in the Lethir forest. Sirac identified with his father's race, while Xandala was decidedly more aligned to the elven side of her lineage. So, Sirac stayed in Suzail with friends of Melian, and the mother and daughter went to Lethir. As a note, we are departing from established lore a bit here and making Sirac's relationship to his parents a little bit less awful. In canon, he's abandoned as a child by Artus and whoever Artus had him with. I'm tweaking it a little bit here. Years pass. Sirach eventually finds his way to the cold north of Icewind Dale in the city of Bryn Shander. Morwen and Xandala live their tranquil lives in Lethir. But Lethir has a neighbor. To the south is Thay, home to the scheming Zulkirs and the machinations of Zastam. At some point, a man came to the community Morwen and Xandala called home. He was followed by red wizards. Apparently the man was on the run from the wizards loyal to Zastam, and the wizards were not picky in their tactics to capture him. A magical conflagration ensued, and in the destruction, Morwen was killed along with several others, and the village was destroyed. Xandala decided to find her brother. Her voyage was long, and over time she kept being drawn back to her mother's stories of Artus, and specifically the magic ring he supposedly possessed. While her mother never had a bad word to say about Artus, Xandala began to obsess over the man, his actions, or lack thereof, and most of all the ring. She would find Sirach, and then with or without him find Artus and demand he help avenge the mother of his children. Finally, Xandala arrived in Bryn Shander, but Sirach was nowhere to be found. After spending some time charming her way through the taverns of the town, she learned Sirach's sad fate. The city recently weathered an assault of frost giants. The giants, led by a giantess named Drufi, had attacked and demanded Artus Cimber and the Ring of Winter. The rumors were that the giants had erroneously tracked Sirach instead of Artus. In the defense of the city, Sirach had tried to reason with Drufi, and instead had been brutally murdered once the giant realized her entire effort had been in vain. This final insult, as Xandala saw it, convinced her to find Artus and get the ring by any means. She has tracked Drufi and Artus to Chult, and is now looking for any method to find her father and begin the next step of her plot for vengeance. So there you have my take on Xandala and Artus. I embarked on various versions of this story, mostly to satisfy my need to understand why Xandala wanted the ring, and to give the players reasons to choose either side, or try to find a way to choose both Artus and Xandala's side, and negotiate some peace or relationship between the two. I hope this alternate reality is helpful or inspiring for your world building. Thanks for watching.